We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Break the molds of modern manhood to prove there is more than one way to be a man. And I, for one, am very grateful to welcome back Rabbi Noam Raucher, a rabbi, spiritual coach, and host of the Jewish Divorce Project, where he helps men navigate life's toughest transitions with honesty, resilience, and heart. He has been on the show before. You loved him. I loved him. Our conversation was wonderful. He told us about how he would be able to take men, at various stages of their journeys and just take them for a hike, take them for a walk, get to know them. I was firmly secured in my atheism back then, and, without any attachment to outcomes or any pressure or force, he welcomed me to think without even trying to. It was really wonderful to open my mind to many other possibilities and thoughts of how to connect with spirit and self. So always grateful for that. He's got decades at the pulpit, coaching leaders and guiding men toward deeper connection and purpose. So I'm looking forward to bringing your grounded insight to our conversation today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity and the conversation. Thanks, guys.
So let's give some context to our conversation today, because some of you may not be listening to this today, 5 days since a sorrowful terror attack, which unfolded 5 days ago at Bondi Beach, December 14th, just 12 hours south of where I grew up, where 15 people were killed and over 40 were wounded during a Hanukkah celebration in what has been very clearly an anti-Semitic terrorist act. The attack was carried out by a father and his 24-year-old son, one of whom was killed at the scene, and the other is now facing charges. There were an immense amount of heroic deeds and moments that day that need to be elevated and celebrated, including a Muslim man, 43-year-old fruit shop owner, who was able to approach and sneak up on one of the gunmen and wrestle the gun out of his hands and saved countless lives in the act of doing so. So Noam's here to help unpack this, and why don't we kick things off with a check-in, because we're all initiated men here with the Mankind Project, and we know how this works. And for those of you out there who know this process, I invite you to check in with yourself before we have this conversation. And for those who aren't familiar with a check-in, enjoy. So, Brandon, I'm checking in with, sadness, anger, fear, and I'm going to allow the joy that I feel to be present too, because I'm experiencing a lot of joy in my life right now. The sorrow, the sadness, the fear is my home country right now and what they're experiencing. We haven't had a mass shooting in Australia in nearly 30 years. And it's strange for me. And I recognize how desensitized I am to shootings here in the States. But the fact that it happened at home just elevated it in my consciousness and perspective. Something I want to own as shame as well, because, I know that I'll see a blurb or something on the news about like a school shooting in Kansas or something. And I'll be like, man, this is horrible. This sucks. And then I just keep trucking along with what I'm doing. Like, it just doesn't even land the same way. And now that it's landed in my home, where I was raised, and my countrymen and countrywomen were killed, it's yeah, I'm feeling all sorts of things right now. So, and I'm fearful as well that I'm going to allow my collection of emotions to come out, and I'm going to just say something really insensitive and stupid during this interview. So I am checking in with all of that, and I'll welcome Noam to check in.
Oh, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Noam, and I'm checking in from Arcadia, California. I feel a sense of sadness for sure. I definitely feel sadness. It's been hard not to feel that throughout Hanukkah, just in terms of the way that it started with the attack at Bondi, or Bondi, excuse me, and also continued with the Reiner's death. That was also a big gut punch. And yeah, sadness has been part of this Hanukkah, and part of the way I feel for a couple of days because of this. But I do also, on the other end of that, I do feel joy. I mean, I saw pictures of the community in Australia responding in really beautiful ways, Jewish and non-Jewish alike. And I thought that was really the type of response you want to see out of something like this. And that joy was also, encouraged by the way that the political system was responding to it with tougher gun laws. And I couldn't honestly tell you, how those, proportionally line up or anything like that, if they will actually make an impact in Australia. But I know that the response has been swift and seems to be clear-eyed. And oddly, the joy at that leaves me with confusion, knowing that, you can't get anything passed here without getting political in the United States when it comes to gun laws, even after, a elementary school gets shot up. And as I've learned in therapy, when I feel confused in certain ways and burdened also by this, and how to respond and what this means for me as a Jew and me for my people, I have a tendency of getting angry because this is like my Bermuda Triangle of emotions. The good thing is that I'm not alone, because I have you guys and I have my community. So, that feels okay. But overall, when I look at that, even with the sadness and the joy and the confusion, I feel unsafe. I'll bring more up about it later, but I feel somewhat unsafe. Yeah. But I'm in.
Thank
anyway.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Boysen, Hodgson checking in. Yeah, I have a lump of grief in my throat that I can feel. I can feel that in my face, feel that in my eyes. Quietly sitting with these events, this event. Immediately the grief is there for folks who are suffering, folks who have lost loved ones, folks who have had their families broken, all of those things. I'm grateful that Brandon invited me to be here today. I'm grateful that I know when we have talked about very difficult things on the Mankind podcast, that we hold them in a way that has heart, that we hold them in a way that has compassion, that we hold them in a way that holds complexity. I think that what else I'll say is I feel so lucky. I feel so blessed. I feel so grateful. This is my second interview today. And the other interview I did today was with an author who wrote a book called The Problem with Thinking that goes into a deeper awareness and expansion and how do we bring how do we bring, non-thinking into our reality so that we can be with each other? And there is something that it immediately anchors me. And even during that conversation, and now during this conversation, anchors me in a sense of spiritual. That's where I end up when I let go of my positionality. Cool. When I let go of like, I'm going to think my way through. I'm going to justify my position. I'm going to do whatever it is. Right. It's like, no, anchor here. Something's bigger. Something bigger is here. So I'm present with that, and I'm in.
Boysen, you are the only person in this entire project that when you check in, I want to jump in and just like, yes, or like that, yeah. And every time we check in together, I'm always jumping in on your check-ins, which is not part of the process because it's just like, oh, you the
and
poet.
Then I shame you and
Boysen the poet.
How bad you
yes.
are. And
Yeah. We are not co-creating this check-in, Brandon. This is my check-in.
I have never said that ever.
Bring it up in the work round, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Bring it up in the
bring it up in the work. We need a clearing.
Yes. Nice. So, yeah, Boysen has a charge against me because of the color of my hair.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is this what this is now?
Okay, let's not.
Great. I love Boysen's hair. That's a great color.
I know, exactly. He's my target. There's my target. Silver fox.
So what are we talking about here? So I'm gonna come back in. I'm gonna come back in
to set up a joke clearly because a rabbi and walk into a podcast interview. Sorry, Boysen,
back
take it away.
To what we're discussing here. One of the things that has happened this week and directly connects is, Movember was last month, and we had a guest from Movember on, and I was scheduled to be with a gentleman named Zach Seidler, who's one of their primaries. Zach is from Bondi Beach. Zach grew up in that community. Zach grew up, his family is right there. He's learned to swim in those waters. He's been on the beach, and he posted something. He canceled our interview, of course, this week when all of this happened. And he posted something to his Instagram account that absolutely just wrecked me. His son is about to be bar mitzvahed. And Zach's stand on this is, I'm going to be there. My son is going to be there. My son is going to walk in those waters. My son is going to be at those Hanukkah celebrations in the future. My son is going to know the community. So that there's something in that commitment to resilience that just immediately shows up for me. And Noam, I'd love to hear you talk about how that is one of the threads in the Jewish community.
Yeah, that's the idea of resiliency is a huge thread, and it's a pretty unbreakable thread at normal times. And I would say during Hanukkah, it is as solid as ever. Hanukkah is a celebration of resiliency. And at the very base of it, it's about rededication, right? Yes. Historically, the ancient Israelites were able to take over their sacred spaces again, which were once defiled. And so they were able to turn the lights back on. That's what lighting the Hanukkah, the menorah, is about, right? A celebration of being able to have that type of, power back in their places. And that they fought against a great and destructive force, right? Some of it was assimilation, right, and wanting to maintain their Jewish culture and identity, and some of it was also just a greater force that was seeking to wipe out Judaism altogether, regardless of assimilation. And the message ultimately that we teach about Hanukkah is that this is about, a tiny light that can shine in the darkness and grow even brighter. And when people try to snuff out the Jewish people, the first mistake is thinking that they can even try, right? Because our light grows stronger every time someone tries to do that. And that's not an invitation to try to test it by any means or by any lunatic that's, listening to this by happenstance. What that means is just to say that resiliency is part of what it means to be Jewish. Just in terms of anyone who is born into the Jewish people or decides to choose Judaism as part of their spiritual path in life, this is part of what it means. We show up naturally. Your friend, and I'd like to befriend this man myself, having just had a son who's at a bar mitzvah and having another one who's going through one in the next 2 years. But to say that after this event means that he was raised really with what the essence is to be Jewish, to have a hope, to have a resiliency, and to know that by shining your light in the world, by refusing to let people snuff your light out, simply because of who you are, is exactly how you remind the rest of the world to do that in their own personal ways as well, that our lights all have value, and that trying to destroy that light in any way is a destruction of the world. That's part of what it means to be Jewish as well, is to honor every single life. So by showing up again, we honor not only the lives that were taken, but our own lives as well. And by honoring those lives, by sanctifying those lives, by showing up, by saying we will not be snuffed out, we inherently give other people the right to not succumb to terrorism as well, which is all over our world in different ways, by people who try to bully them, by people who try to take their power and manipulate them in smaller personal ways, in relationships or in business. It is a reminder, I think, it is continuing that story of letting our light shine and burning, even though it seems like resources are lacking, even though the odds may be against us. That's an inspiring story, I think, for anyone who's going through a circumstance where greater powers try to dominate them and snuff out their existence entirely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to show you this for those listening. I don't know if you can see that. This is my daughter. And those are our friends, Dan and Marquis. And last night, my daughter lit her first menorah with them and their son. It was really cool. I didn't know it was happening when we invited them over for dinner. But my wife, being my wife, was like, it's Hanukkah. Like, bring a menorah. We'll light it. And they had to leave, but we kept it burning all the way down to when it was done. And they were sharing with me. So we got to go really deep and check in with them and remind them of our support of them. And Marquis, she shared that, it's such a scary time, it's such a scary time. And that they, there's contention between her and her partner right now about and you'll have to remind me the name of what you put in the window during Hanukkah. What's that?
It's called a Chanukiah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah, which essentially means a 9-branched candelabra. A
9-branched candelabra. And that there was fear and trepidation in doing so. In putting that up. We're hearing about attacks in New York, just in the street, I believe two Jewish individuals have been killed. And so when things like this happen, when Bondi happens, when many people feel the pressure to immediately explain it, justify it, politicize it, or defend a position, as a rabbi, as a community leader, as a spiritual coach, what do you think is the right first posture for a human being in the face of this kind of violence? Because I know my brain wants to start going into binary, right, wrong, this or that.
Yeah.
How do you hold it? How do you hold it first and foremost when you're faced with this, when you learn of these instances?
Yeah. So it's probably important to remember that, values and politics are a projection of our human experience, right? And how we try to contextualize and understand the world.
Thank you.
When something like this happens, this isn't, look, there are always value and political implications of it, right? There are expressions of some kind, right? It'd be hard to think of that regardless of this. But I would imagine the hierarchy by which human connection is beneficial to all is probably figuring out how we respond as humans first, right? That people are in pain. And I would imagine anyone witnessing this whether you're in direct, you were there, or you see this where I am in, the United States, that you would feel pained by this in some way. Right. And I imagine there are different levels of pain, and there's no, competition for victimhood or anything like that. But I would imagine the first human response would not be about political ideology or right or wrong or anything like that. It would be to objectively see that people are in pain.
We saw that with Charlie Kirk, right?
Yeah.
We saw that with Charlie Kirk,
Yes,
people just instantly saying, quoting all the things he had said in the past to inspire hate and division and all the rest. And it's like, you know what? Let's just pause for a moment. Let's let some grieving occur before we start jumping in with this happened because that happened and this happened because of how they.
There's no question about it. Yes, no, I certainly hear what you're saying, and wanting to. Yeah, I mean, people want to be right or wrong. They want to take a side on this because they have to address it from some. That's unfortunately, I think, a function of the social media sphere that we live in. And, the algorithm that wants people to say certain things. I don't know that I compare a shooting at Bondi Beach, an anti-Semitic terrorist attack, to an individual who got shot. I think
certainly.
I think those are two very different scenarios, because it's not like the Jewish community was trying to rile anyone up or anything like that. They weren't involved in a political conversation. They were simply exercising their freedom of expression. Right?
Certainly.
Charlie Kirk is, he's having political conversations in a heated environment.
Yes,
and he was also a contested individual even before his shooting.
Certainly. More so speaking to the outcome, what you see primarily in media. Yeah. Whether it be social or, traditional media. Yeah. So to summarize, is just to witness the moment, the objective horror, the objectivity of it, of just, and before jumping to, and here's the thing, when the stuff that was happening in and around, whether it was Charlie Kirk or January 6th or any of these moments in the recent zeitgeist that have become a part of our recent history, is just kind of like, I'm learning to check myself of who gives a flying what about my opinion on this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no one. What am I going to do? What am I going to do in this moment on social media, as opposed to what can I do in my community and to the people closest to me? Is it reminding our Jewish friends whom we love, like, hey, like, you're safe with us. Like, what can we do to support you right now? As opposed to going online with the however many thousand people that I don't really know, wanting to throw my thoughts or ideas on something.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I want to kind of speak to, it's very commonly said that the people that are the most vocal and most aggressive online probably have never been punched in the nose. They don't know that experience. And so they haven't felt the sensation of real conflict, right? What that actually, or maybe they have, but there's this element of desensitization that can occur, which allows me to think or say and behave in certain ways. I'll give a quick anecdote here. We're at a Christmas party the other night, and this was just day of this news coming out about Bondi. And they're talking about world events, and it's like, Venezuela and all these things. And I'm like, well, did you all hear about Bondi Beach in Australia? And they're like, no. And I went and told them the information that was currently available. And I witnessed two individuals, grown men, fathers, go, yeah, man, that sucks. And then just carry on a conversation. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Because I got it immediately. The same thing I shared before about, I hear about a shooting in an elementary school. It's like, man, that's horrible. And then I just keep going on about my day as this desensitization. But then you look at a place like Australia where this stuff does not happen. Mass gun deaths do not occur in that country. And it just blows my mind to and I'm feeling it now from both angles here, because it's my countrymen. that are hurt and that are harmed, and I'm feeling that hurt. And yet around the world, when you're not there, when you don't get the culture, when you don't get what's going on, it's so easy just to not be tapped in. So from your thoughts, like what is the long-term cost here if we don't address the real issues happening right now? And I just need to fire this off again. I'm feeling it right now. But I'm also saying that we as human beings don't have the capacity to hold all the world's atrocities in our minds and our hearts. But Boysen, can you dunk it for me?
Noam was right there. And
Yeah.
so what does spiritual wisdom have to say in a time when all the suffering of the world is right here? Right? It's just like
In our phones.
It's the first time ever in human history where we can witness, we can bear witness to that. So what can we learn? What solace is there?
Thank you, Boysen.
Damn. Yeah. I just want to, and you could edit this out. Brandon, you're a father, right? You're a new father?
Yeah, I got a 3-year-old with one on the way.
Oh, man. Yeah. And it's a scary world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very scary world. The danger in living in the digital era where everything is at our fingertips, like you bring up, Boysen, is that it's so easy to kind of, bring this stuff in, be desensitized by it, and not think much of it. And our brains can only take so much. And I think part of the reality and some of the advantage of this digital era is that much of it has been democratized. So you can see that there's a lot of these problems happening all over the place. And in some way it becomes banal, right? Unfortunately, that it's just like, tell me something new about the world, right? Or tell me something I don't know about the world. I would suggest apathy is the greatest problem that we face in that way. Because, you just have no energy for it. You have no energy being invested. It doesn't matter, especially if you're safe and you can just change the channel so easily. And as long as you have bread and eggs and milk, right, you'll be okay. You only have so much space for it, and we're overloaded as it is. And I think politicians know that. I think big tech knows that. I think fighting for our attention is what their competitive goals are all about. So they're always going to come up with new ways to flood us with stuff for our attention. And so we're never going to spend too much time on everything. And we're constantly going to be focused on what serves our own benefit, which is why, I think part of the response to things like this, the spiritual response, is not to be looking at the phone, right? It's to be part of a community and to have that human interaction and to, be, I would say, contagious with other people, pick up what they are passionate about and what they are dealing with. And you'll probably find that it resonates with you as well because your story overlaps. You don't get that stuff in isolation. You get whatever crap is out there that you think is going to, give your worldview validity and an affirmation, which is where you end up with guys, attached to things like terrorist cells like ISIS and gangs and other toxic environments where they get these nasty, vindictive, and often violent ideas in their head. But a community, I would say a spiritual community rooted in an authentic, faith-based tradition that honors the inherent dignity and humanity in all individuals, and that teaches you to be humble and grateful are probably the places that you want to be. And they're probably far more out there than we know about, and even non-religious spaces, but communities, right, that do that. That's why MKP has been really good for me on top of the Jewish community. Felt really good to be with my brothers on Tuesday night, even though I felt unsafe, right? The actual physical space that we were meeting in It didn't have like an antechamber to it. There's like a door directly to the outside, and just in my head, I'm thinking, Jesus, someone could bust in here. They could see like there could be some wackadoo out there, and they could see the lights on, say "Easy Prey," and just who knows, right? And that may be my head just being paranoid, but that's the unsafety I feel that I was talking about before in the check-in. But what made me feel safe was then having my brothers in the group who had all heard of the attack at Bondi Beach and who all said that they felt for it and who all were upset about it. None of them are Jewish, and so that made me feel safe. So that's, in times like this, in response to circumstances like this, it's not more isolation. It's certainly not more time on the phone. It's putting the phone down and getting together with community and being with other people.
Thank you. The feeling of lack of safety, the felt experience of lack of safety for Jewish people or for cultural groups in general, or, this kind of thing. I want to explore generational trauma as a kind of idea that is, I think, present in many, many parts of our society right now, that we are whole groups of people walking around with legacies of trauma from multiple different types of experiences. How do we work to heal from that? And I think that you just put one of the things in the room, which is knee to knee, right? Is how do we get with people? How are we in person? How are we connected? What other things come from wisdom?
I think part of it is, not only getting together with people, but what happens in those knee to knee moments, right? What stories are you sharing? Whether you're, capable of seeing yourself in someone else's story and them in yours. To talk simply for a second, right? The hero's journey is part of a lot of popular mythology, right? It's part of the Jewish one, as it's part of Greek mythology and any number of other pieces of wisdom literature. We're right in the square, middle of that right now with the book of Genesis as we read it. But I lost my train of thought.
Generational trauma, healing, yes. Hero's journey.
Yeah. So, right. It's the knee to knee time with people. It's the sharing of stories. It's the eye contact. And then I would imagine there's, right, not necessarily the knee to knee, because that's the intimate time, but there's the shoulder to shoulder, right? The more just kind of social, right? Let's get out, let's do some gardening together where we don't have to talk about this trauma. We can just live life together, right? Trauma. And, I'm not dismissing it. I would never dismiss that. But it is also a vestige of the past, right? It's something that happened to us in the past that we're holding on to for whatever reason, for whatever legitimate reason. But we also need to spend time together with each other in the present, building a present history and a future and a road to the future, right? And you do that by, I would imagine, which is forgiveness in some way. And that doesn't mean saying I'm sorry and taking responsibility for things that you're not responsible for, but it does mean, I think, relinquishing anger in certain ways and doing things side by side with people in brotherhood or fellowship.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing me back on track.
That was beautifully said, and takes me right back to the kind of resilience piece, right? It's like throughout human history, throughout humanity, bad things happen and you get up the next day and do what's necessary to feed the children.
You have to, right? Yes. You have to. That hierarchy of needs still, stands, right? Everything's got to get done because the world does march on. But grief allows you to hold on, right? Which is why you have to honor the grief. That's what also, it's this weird place. It's like this, grief is the Venn diagram between death and life, right? It's that center area that allows you to honor what has happened, right? In the loss or the attack or the hatred or whatever it is, the grief that you're feeling, but also be part of life to execute and do whatever else you need to do.
Thank you.
Noam, you spoke about the Australian response, the community at Bondi and beyond. And I shared a video, and it was just a compilation of all these different moments. It was during a cricket game, doing a footy match, and then all the surfers and the swimmers and the lifeguards at Bondi going out and creating what looked like a multiple 100-person heart in the ocean.
Yeah.
And it made me so emotional. There's a really famous song in Australia. Oh, I'm bloody blanking on the name. I had to sing it in 3rd grade in front of my parents.
Can I ask you a different question? Is it okay to interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Why did that image make you so emotional?
So, yeah, I'll answer your question. I believe I'll give you exactly what you're inquiring about. In this song, there's a line that goes, well, the main chorus is, "We are one, but we are many, and for all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and we sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian." I've not been able to find that since moving to America. A cultural identity that's built of many parts, multiple parts, a multi-patched quilt. And that's not to suggest that Australia doesn't have its issues with racism, doesn't have its issues with bigotry. Like, we got that. But you can see when stuff like this happens in Australia, what the Australian response is. And I'm just so saddened that I have not seen that here in the United States. When was the last time that happened? 9/11, like, does something that bad have to happen for us to just bridge gaps and connect and just collectively grieve and just align? And I just got this shred of hope watching conservatives, namely MAGA, speak up against the president after his horrific comments about the murder of Rob and Michelle Reiner. And it's just like, oh, thank God there's hope. Like, there's hope for this disease we have in our country right now that we're all responsible for. That it's not just the president's fault. It's not just the last administration's fault. It's not wokeism. It's not Christian nationalism. It's all of our responsibility. Like, we've all put ourselves in this place. And so what does Australia have that allows it to just stop in moments like this and just come together? And how do we cultivate that here? That's the kind of country I want to raise my daughter and my kid to come in. And I'm not seeing it right now. This is a great moment to introduce our sponsors, BetterHelp. Does all the effed up shit happening in the world make you wonder if you're alone and struggle with your thoughts? Go to our sponsors, BetterHelp, for 10% off your first month.
Wow. Try Paxil. There you go. Yeah, thank you for that, Brandon.
That's a lot of weight to carry.
You brought up the father part, and that's when it all, like, as you know, we're all dads in the room. Like, that's when I stop. Because me, I'm like, whatever, like me, but like for my kids.
I don't know that there's a specific response other than to say, I feel everything that you're saying, brother. I really do. I think, that's a result of, first of all, being a decent human being, right? You're, in our tradition, we would call your neshama, your soul, your spirit is oriented, right, in the right way, right? That you care about humanity and that wish for it to be this beautiful picture painted in that Australian lyric, is a lovely one. Really is a beautiful one. I think it also speaks of, our younger generational orientation, right, towards a kind of a real unified world, right? That one that isn't built up by religious walls or political walls or borders, and without trying to be dismissive or reductionist or naive, but using the spirit of John Lennon's Imagine, that sort of thing, a real peacefulness that embraces and unifies the whole world. I long for that as well. I very much want it because I know that, this world impacts my kids. And when they learn about things in school or over social media, that they get ideas in their head of what they want to do. And those ideas aren't always pleasing to me. Sometimes they're downright disappointing. And at the very least, I want them to live in a world that is peaceful and that is safe. I don't want to have them, I don't want to worry about them going off to school and getting shot. I don't want to have them wander off or go off in life to a public Hanukkah event somewhere in the world and to worry about them getting shot there. That stuff frightens me deeply, deeply. And yet I have to go on with life like every day, right? As if that stuff didn't exist, right? Or else how would I get out of bed? Part of it, I think, is knowing that there are a lot of good people out there, right? And unfortunately, it does take us to a real tragedy to remind us of what's really important, that we should be more bonded together. But I think that's what also helps perpetuate those tragedies in the future. I really do. Because I think people are watching, right? And I think if there are more haters out there, and I'm sure there are more haters out there, you think these are the only two radicalized guys in Australia or anywhere in the world from ISIS? No, right? They're all over the place. And I hope every single time that the news unfolds about something like this and that they see what happens in Australia and they see guys like Ahmed El Ahmed and they hear of other, civilians that stepped in before the police could get there. I hope those wannabe terrorists, those cowards, right? I hope they think twice to know that they're not just up against the police, right? That they're being sent on a fool's mission and that there are going to be people who stand up to them and fight back, right? And that even if they do attack and kill some of us tragically, right, we will always respond in much more strong ways or stronger ways that aren't violent, right, but that are loving and filled with brotherhood, right, which is really the only way to mend all this stuff and to build that peaceful world that you're talking about. I'm not saying we need the tragedies to inspire it, but what I'm saying is the response to the tragedy is always, I think, greater than the tragedy itself.
May it be so.
So let's, I'm looking at little squares here. I'm looking at 3 leaders. We're all leaders in our communities, leaders of our families, leaders of our circles, leaders of our organizations. And so I'm going to dare say there's enough authority in the room, and much of it's been spoken to in what we've shared together, to dish out some prescriptions, or as McConaughey would say, prescription.
No, he would say that. Wait, like in the tradition, like in Fiddler on the Roof tradition.
No. So there goes my McConaughey accent. No. If you've listened to Green Lights, he goes, one sec. All right, no, I'm not going to do it. All right. Every chapter he'll have a prescription, and here's what I've heard. Is that whether it's knee to knee or shoulder to shoulder, now is the time to be with community. It's still Hanukkah, right? It is still the holiday season. And be with your people, be with your community. Who in your life is Jewish, right? Who in your life has connections to Palestine or wherever there are atrocities happening in the world, and show your common humanity and invite them for dinner, have them for lunch, get to know them, show love to them, remind them that you're there. And when I feel powerless against big tech or against the government or against geopolitical conflicts, the one thing that I know has always been true for me, for this organization, is the power of ripples. And that it doesn't take just one policy change to create the change we want to see, but it can take millions of ripples or acts of kindness on a smaller scale in your town of 250 or your city of 8 million. Like, who in your backyard can you be with right now and share that love to and show that kindness? Because you know it, Boysen, you know it, Noam, in our circles. Shit. Look at men who chat in Chattanooga. Gay, straight, black, white, atheist, Jewish, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, won't tell ya. We all sit in circle together. You know? Someone rolls up on a bicycle, the other one pulls up in a, in a Maserati, and it's like we sit in circle. We break bread. We love each other. We support each other. That's what's on my heart to share right now. What's alive in yours?
I'll jump in, and mine will be shorter than that, but I've been really cognizant recently, and in a conversation like this, it's so clear to me. Every situation that I walk into, I'm carrying a whole set of cultural stories, carrying a whole set of beliefs that I didn't create, that I inherited, that are out there in the world, that I have internalized about who people are and what they are and what my people are and what your people are. And like, just the recognition when I can take enough of a step away to say, oh, there's that cultural story, and look at it as a cultural story rather than as a truth of the universe or a truth of this situation or a truth of this neighborhood. I am going to be more able to do Jim Catone. I'll bring Jim Catone in the room. I'm going to be more able to respect. Remember, everyone suffers painful experiences. Communicate tenderly. To every person I encounter, when I can separate myself from the stories that I tell myself about people who I could other in every day. Yeah, that's what I'm carrying.
I appreciate both of those. And I would say for me, it would probably be a combination of the two. It would be, in moments like this, the type of experiences that are necessary are not going to be found in the phone, but they are going to be found in the community, in the knee to knee and in the shoulder to shoulder, and in the stories that people are sharing. Right, that I don't know anything about, but should have the curiosity to try to learn.
Thank you.
Let's check out.
Boysen checking out. Grateful, tenderhearted. Yeah, let go of some tears. And during this conversation, I'm grateful for that. I'm out.
Thank you. Brandon. Checking out. Yeah. I'm in it. I'm in it right now, and I'm thankful for that, because I've witnessed so many horrible things through my device that had no real connection to me, and my narrative has been, like, don't absorb the information, and like, yeah, I guess for good reason, but when it's in my backyard, I have a lot more appreciation and understanding and respect for those who have stuff going on in their backyards, and it isn't as easy as just switch off. They feel it on multiple levels. And so I have been reminded of the experience of others, while also not having to experience the true depth of it. So I'm out.
Noam, and I'm checking out with gratitude for this moment and enjoying this conversation with you guys. These types of conversations are always revitalizing for me. So I love being part of them, and I love having them with brothers. So that's an extra treat. And so checking out with an added feeling of safety in that way, which, always feels good to bank, especially during, these types of experiences, especially going, through Hanukkah as well. I'll take that one to heart. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Noah.
Beautiful. Nice wisdom. We can bank that stuff. That just landed. We can bank that stuff.
It's a good one. Piggy bank it,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been another
Pleasure, guy.
live recording of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood by proving there is more than one way to be a man and a brother and a citizen, a community member, a human. And we do that by having courageous conversations on taboo topics you're typically not allowed to have at the dinner table. And we've done it again, Boysen. So, Noam, you made that possible. Thanks for answering the call.
We're happy to help. Absolutely.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Lots of love.
Take care, guys.
See you all next time.
All right. Take care.
This has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. We have been your hosts, Boysen Hodgson and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the Mankind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.